Sorry, Carly, I do not.
Either. Ron, do you? Elizabeth, do you? No. Elizabeth, unmute yourself.
Having a technical thing, I was trying to make sure I had the service pulled up too. Couldn't
Okay,
get to my mute button, but no, I don't recall. It may hit me though.
I don't either. And when I asked, she said her dad was in the supply crew. So thank God for him, or they wouldn't have what they needed. Okay, and in the chat was just placed his medals and his patches. I'm not medals, I'm sorry, his dog tags and his patches. So if you look in the chat, you'll see the beautiful, he has the CBI and his tiger. And then I don't know those other two. One looks like a signal cord to me, but I'm not sure. Okay, Jim our technical person, Jim, is with us. Thank God, because I could not do this alone. Trust me. I've tried and it falls apart every time. So that's why Jim always offers his services to be with us. Okay, so there's the tiger patch is here. Oopsie, there. The tiger patch from the original, the 14th Air Force tiger patch. The CBI original patch, and I am uncertain what this one or this one means. Mel, do you or Wing recognize either of these patches?
Patches, certainly the two of them are our
Right.
Top ones.
and
Right.
the flying tiger patch.
Yes, but what about this patch? Do you recognize that one at all, Mel?
No, I don't recognize the 4 on the bottom.
Okay.
Well, the dog tags I recognize, but not
Sure.
the 2 center ones.
Okay, I've never seen these patches. Nell, do you recognize these patches?
I do not.
Okay, Nell, do you recognize the patches? Did you go away, girl? No, there you are. Nell, you're muted.
I do not recognize that. It looks like that wouldn't be the duck, it looks like an eagle.
Yeah, it looks like an eagle. The other one is either a
It's a bomb.
triune or a bomb, a missile. Well, we'll have to figure that one all out, won't we? Okay, Jim, can you switch it back to the regular screen, please? Okay, there we go. Now I feel better. Okay, I can see everybody now. Okay, so let's see. I don't have anything. Okay. So that's our Jagger who's with us. They do not have a mic, so they can't speak, so she's texting back and forth. Okay, and so Wing, please introduce yourself, and that lovely bride of yours, Dottie, wherever she flew off to right now.
She's busy doing her mail. My name is Wayne Lai, L-A-I. I'm 98 years old. I think I'm a little bit older than Mel.
98 also.
I belong to the 555 Air Service Group under the 14th Air Force.
And you served in
Better
China.
known
Where
as
were you?
a-
Where were
Pardon?
you stationed in China, Wing?
Oh, all over Western China. Chikiang, if I name it, I don't think you know where it is. Chikiang, Huayang, Kunming, all over.
Recognize that.
Uh-huh.
For sure, Kunming.
Well, we have to go where we have to service the planes, that's all. We travel all over. We have a good time now that I'm back in good condition.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say my brother passed away back there in 1945.
Your brother did?
Yeah. She passed away 4 days before the end of the war. So
Wow. So
that's
sorry.
the sad part. The good part is that I get to travel most of China, and after the war, which I was stationed in Shanghai, was very good. I have a good time there, It's a big city, and a lot of dancing at the French quarters and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Memory.
Okay, let's see. Mel and Jennifer, tell us about you, please.
Okay. Well, one thing I before I forget it, well, first of all, I've always been introduced. Jennifer here is one of the few remaining actual operating Rosie the Riveters. She was a riveter at Lockheed in Burbank.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But one thing before I forget it, some time ago, I gave Jeff Green, and his Sino-American Heritage Foundation my uniform so he could find a permanent home for it. While we were in China, and I hope I got the city right, he gave it to, I put it on. We were in I think it was Beijing. I put it on, and then in the ceremony, I took it off and handed it to the recipient. And it's going to be on a model and a permanent home in that museum. Of course, I had stripped the wings off and gave it to a grandson, and I took the medals off, but they can all be replaced. But I was glad to find that my uniform now is going to be in a permanent museum in China.
Excellent. Well, we're glad you're both with us today. Welcome back home. And okay, to my upper right-hand corner is Sue Macris. Sue.
Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm Sue Macris, and I live in the Washington, D.C. area. And my dad, George Miller, was in the 69th DRS, and he was stationed in Kunming, and he worked on generating oxygen for the pilots for the flights, and yeah, he talked a lot about his experiences in China, and also on the road, through India and whatever. We always heard a lot of interesting stories from him when we were growing up, and I think it had a really important influence on his life, and therefore on our lives. So my dad passed away in 1992. He's been gone for a while now, and my mom is gone too, but I'm gonna carry on.
Hey, Dave.
Thanks, Carly, and hi, everyone. I'm Dave Levitsky. My grandfather was Harry White. He was in the 69th DRS as well, also in Kunming. He was a Norden bomb site mechanic. I shared a picture in the chat. This was, I think, the second reunion that my brothers and I took him to, and I think it was from 1997, maybe, in Niagara, I think. I still miss him to this day. He passed in 2002. He was an amazing guy and a great storyteller. And really, that's why I got interested in this art organization that Carly spends so much time in, because to me, it's an amazing story, and it's an underappreciated piece of history. And so whatever we can do to continue that, I think, is incredible. And the one thing I'm most disappointed about is that he never got to meet his great grand cubs, which would be these guys, my sons, who I'm very proud of, and I'm sure he would be too. So thank you for doing this, Carly. It means a lot, and I appreciate everybody that's on this call. It's terrific.
Welcome, Dave. Thank you. And the boys have gotten so big.
I'm the third tallest in the house.
Oh my gosh, where's the time gone? They were little guys.
I know.
I remember, was it Max that made a beautiful get well card for Hank Tursky?
Yeah.
He was just 5 years old or something. I mean, where's the time gone, guys?
Yeah.
Wow. Say
Anyway,
thank you, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's nice to see you all. Thank you.
Come. While I think of it, Bill Finkelstein said to say howdy to everyone. He is in Chicago today and overbooked himself and is unfortunately not able to join us from the board. So, okay. And Miss Nell?
Yes, ma'am. I'm Nell Calloway.
Her name.
I I am here because my grandfather was
This way.
Colonel Claire Chenault, and have a lot to share about Nell's and Jennifer's and my wonderful experience that we just had the last 2 weeks that I think everybody on this call will be interested in. I look forward to sharing that with you.
Thanks, Nell. And we know Mel and Jennifer. Okay, Miss Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bowles. My grandfather was Lieutenant Richard Vo. He went by Dick Vo. His wife was Betty Vo. He was the top Northern bomb site specialist, from what I understand, in the Pacific Theater. Had a lot to do with a lot of what the 69th DRS did. That's where his group was. He was the guy that when he was given the y'all know the story of how the 69th DRS was put together. I hope, if not, I'll be glad to tell you. But he was the one. They gave him the files of the people they'd assigned to him, and he rejected everybody that had been in trouble for something dumb. But he also rejected everybody who had a perfect record because he wanted men who could think for themselves. And he put together a really special group of men. And I think that I don't know what y'all got in trouble for, but it was probably something that impressed him. So I'm also kind of good friends with Hank Tursky. He was a kind of another sort of grandfather type figure to me. I met him through this group and ended up giving him a ride out of the blue to a reunion, and you can't get rid of him after that. So, and I do want to say too, I have a painting that Harry White did. I still have that painting. I'm not at my house right now. I would show it to you. Harry White used to paint. He had some, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, he had some photographs that he'd taken when he was there, and he would paint watercolors from those photographs. And I have this one that I just really, really love, because I could be totally wrong, but it looks like he painted himself into the picture. And it's just something I look at, and it reminds me to think of all the guys that are there, that were there. I have a lot of love for all of these guys, and I remember my granddad just bragging on every one of them and the stories he would tell, and how some of them went off and stole some ingredients from the British convoy to make him a birthday cake and all kinds of things. So I'm always just in awe of all of you, and even those of you that didn't serve in the 69th DRS. I know it's just an incredible generation, and I thank you for what you've done. And I just want to be here to support and give my thanks to all my grandfather and all of the men and all of their wives too. Granddad once said that he thought the women could have won the war without him if they'd have had to. And I still have the recording of him saying that, and I shared it on one call at one point. And if you ever want a copy of that, just let me know. I can send you the file. But I just want to thank you guys for doing this again today, and for your faithfulness to remember these men and their contribution to history and to freedom for the world. So thank you.
Liz,
Thank you, Elizabeth.
you still have one of his pictures in your house. He loved doing it. I have one in my office that it's from a picture he took in 1945, and then probably in the early 80s. And I have a couple still in the house too. And it was just something he loved. And for a period of time, he had donated them to be displayed in Chinatown in Philadelphia. And it made him so proud that like people would have an interest in that. But I love the fact that you have one. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. I got mine at an auction at a Tiger reunion. And so that's how I scored it. And I've still got the note. I think somebody from your family wrote a note about it and how it came to be. I still have that. I keep it, as well.
Love it. Thank you.
Okay, Ron,
Yeah,
Mel, wait
Yes.
1 second, Ron, Mel,
yes.
did you have a question?
No, well, I've been, every time I leave, I realize I hadn't introduced, when we went, we couldn't have gone on the trip without our eldest son, Tim, and his lovely wife, Carolyn. And they've been taking care of us now. We took care of them when they were little kids, but we could not have gone without them, and they just have been watching over us. And I just wanted everyone to know that that we were not alone.
You'll never be alone because you have your children and then you have all us cubs. Trust me, you couldn't get away from the cubs or the grand cubs, even
we've
if
been
you
back to
try.
China. We've been back to China many times, and we've taken our youngest son and our elder son. We've taken our family with us, and so they've taken part on a couple occasions in China. Sometime on our own, and sometime with Jeff Green and his group.
Great. Well, one of these days we're going to get y'all again to Louisiana. So thank you, Mel. Okay, Ron, can you hear us and can you talk? Unmute yourself, Ron. All right. Let me see if I can do that. Jim, can you?
My arm.
Ron, I can't hear. Unmute. Jim, help. He'll need to unmute himself. Ron, there we go. Yay.
Hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. I'm Ron Stuckey. Hi, you guys. I just want to say, talk about my dad a little bit, but I want to thank you, men and women of the 69th DRS, all that you did for this country. We celebrate you on this day and thank you for your service. I'm Ron Stuckey. My dad was Thomas Stuckey. He was in the 69th DRS, stationed in Kunming, China, and he run the wood shop over there with Chinese workers that repaired the P-40s as they came in and did some other work that needed to be done. And one of the fondest memories I have of him, the story that he told me, was flying over the hump with supplies in a cargo C-140, whatever. And everybody was hungry on board the ship. They were flying over the hump, and Dad had brought his little kerosene stove, single burner, and he all they had on board were a pallet full of bread and a pallet full of bacon. So bacon and bread sandwiches flying over the hump for everybody on board. I love that story because I love bacon.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys, for all your service. We really appreciate and love you.
I would like to make a note right now before we go any further. I would like to also honor Ron today because Ron is a veteran of the Army, correct, Ron?
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay.
3 months, 15 days, and 4 hours.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Ron's amongst our honored veterans today, so I wanted to point that out. Paul was with us a minute and disappeared. So Paul, can you hear me? Can you come back on, Paul? Maybe not. I hear an echo. Hello? Paul? Speak to me, Paul. Technology's wonderful, isn't it? When it works.
When it works.
Okay, Miss Susie Peck, are you down in the corner there, girl? Sue? Wake up.
Hey, I had to unmute it. I had to get back to my screen.
Okay, unmute, girl. Susie,
Okay.
tell us, welcome and tell us about your situation.
Okay, first I'll talk about my dad, George Cleefman, and he was in the 69th ERS Kunming, and he was an ammunition specialist, is what's on record. I'm not so sure that that's all, but I understand that there was a factory there, but whenever they had problems with parts on the airplanes, he was the one who had to figure out whether it was the ammunition or fix the guns or whatever. And after he'd fix them, my understanding is he'd have to ride like in the bombers to check out to make sure that the things were working right or not. So I always heard stories about him being a tail gunner. So I didn't know anything, but he didn't talk about it a lot at all. But he did talk about the very, very poor conditions, especially of the prisoners, because he was there after they were released. He also talked about the women who would repair the airfield, and they would be, actually, some of the Chinese would be pregnant, and they would literally go to the side, have the baby, put it in a pouch, and go back to work. He talked about how they were told that the Japanese were really concerned about the whistling Corsairs. So they wanted to put a whistle on the bottom of the airplanes. And so my dad had always made these little bamboo whistles. And so they tried to make a big one that would fit on the bottom of the airplane so that it would give whistling death to the Japanese, like the Corsairs. Let's see, what else did he talk about? Going into Kunming with the tiger. They had a pet tiger. And when they would go into the city, their Jeeps and their vehicles and things would be stolen. So they would leave the cat in the Jeep so that it wouldn't be stolen while they were there.
Can I ask a question? Was that
Sure.
Miss Kitty?
Yes, that was Miss
Yes, it was.
Kitty.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and I
my
have pictures
granddad,
of her.
my granddad would have been the closest. He always told me he and a couple of his dearest friends had a cat together named Miss Kitty, and it was like a leopard, but they called it a tiger or something.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, so really that means that my granddad and
I have a picture of Miss Kitty.
closer with him. Thank you. Yeah,
I do have a picture of Miss Kitty.
Yeah, she kept
I'd
the
like to
group alive and giving them antics with the monkeys and the baboons that are stories of legends. Go ahead, Sue. Sorry to interrupt.
I ended up with all of this big box of pictures, and there are pictures of Miss Kitty. There's also snake charmers and the monkeys. And my dad was known back here for breaking horses and stuff, and so he actually rode the water buffaloes there in China. Let's see what else. That's about all the stories I can think of right now. I also want to salute several other people. My husband, who was in the Navy for 30 years, was on submarines and rescue vessels. John Ben Curtis, who was the Army specialist at the CIA in Vietnam. James Check, who was in the Navy on carriers in Vietnam and further. Tom Knight, who was in the Air Force in Vietnam with, I believe it was the F-4s. Mitch Padilla, who was in the Navy, and he was in the deserts with Iraq and Iran. I want to thank them all for their service. That's all I have.
Okay, go.
Oh, there's
Thank you.
one more thing. There was a show on TV called Bringing Christmas Home, and it's all about a World War II jacket that was found. Anyway, they found a love letter, and it says, "I miss holding your hand. It's going to be a lonely season, but know how many tears I shed while you are away. It doesn't hold a candle to your brave sacrifice. I'll be thinking of you on Christmas Day, waiting under the mistletoe for you to return. You're in my thoughts, my prayers, and my heart. You're loving," and you can put in their grandson, granddaughter, daughter, whatever you'd like.
I would like a copy of that letter if you don't mind.
I'll see if I can get it. It's from a movie, so it could be all made up.
Well, I think it still hits the point home that of the loneliness they felt while they were over there. And
Yes.
it was beautifully put into words. We have our big Veterans Day celebration tomorrow on Veterans Day, and that might be something I could share with them if I can.
Oh, okay.
Send
Yeah.
you an email, and you can just give me the source, and I may or may not use it. I may pretend like it's real.
Well, and it's a good chance that it was real, because they gave the actual name of the person and where he served in World War II.
Wow.
And also, and they showed a copy of this letter. Of course, it was aged and everything, but they could have done that, through other means. But anyway, it looked real.
So I can give you if you have a pen handy, I can give you my phone number, which would be easier, and you can just text it to me if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
It's 318
318
yeah, 366
366
1496.
1496. Okay.
But, so many times we do forget the families and the loneliness that they feel, and that really kind of crosses the ocean both ways, I think.
I thought it did. I thought it was beautiful. That's why I wrote it down.
Yeah.
My dad's uniform I gave to my sister.
Mm-hmm.
So she has my dad's uniform. I have my husband's uniform, the Navy uniforms.
Thank
And
you,
I have all
Sue.
this. Okay.
Okay, Paul walked away. Paul, come back. He went and put his beautiful jacket on. It had a CBI patch on it, or AVG patch, I think it was. And we'll wait for him to come back. There he is. Paul, are you there? Unmute yourself, darling. There we go.
Hey.
Hi, Paul. Welcome.
Yes.
Tell
How's
us
everybody
about you.
doing?
Tell us about you and your jacket and how you're here today, please.
Well, my uncle Johnny was one of the Flying Tigers, and he was recruited out of Pensacola, out of the Naval Academy. We have pictures of him on the boat going over to Rangoon. He's playing a piano. He was a piano and organ player at the church, but he liked ragtime and jazz, which got my grandfather very upset. But he played the piano since it was a slow boat to China in those days. And that's where he first met Emma Jane Foster, because she was on the boat also. And he played the piano, and there's a picture of him on the front of the boat, the forecastle. They had a canvas saltwater tub filled with water because they didn't have air conditioning on the boats in those days. It was not a tour boat, and he was traveling as a piano player in a band in Rangoon. So it was quite an interesting trip.
Wow. So did he serve in the AVG or did he serve in the 14th?
He was in the AVG.
ABG,
Okay.
and he was
Okay.
killed. Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed over 2 extra weeks and switched planes with Tex. And on one of his very last mission, it was a new P-40E, which was built to drop bombs because his original plane, number 47, which was still around, they rigged up bicycle wheels and levers to move cables to drop the bombs. And the bombs were Russian. We have pictures of the Chinese workers. The American bombs had tongs. The Russian bombs had a hoop welded on the casing. Well, the Chinese got these bombs from Russia, but they didn't have any hoops on them. So they welded hoops on them. Now, you would think they would take the detonators out and everything. The pictures clearly show a guy sitting on the bomb with an electric arc welder, welding a hoop on it, and the detonator is still in the front of the bomb.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, it's wartime and you do what you have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. He admitted that they made them, the armorers, work on the bombs further away from the runways. But
Good.
apparently none of them ever blew up.
So thank you, Paul. That's amazing. Do you have any other stories? We have to share those. Jennifer, you're raising your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to tell you that that Phyllis, who was just talking, his jacket reminded me that we went to visit a school and the children are anxious to give us gifts. And one of them was the fan that with the bear that he had on his jacket. Of course, the pandas are all over China, but also the special gift that they gave to Mel was the airplane that the children made. It's very clever, put together, and we got it home safely. But we had a great trip, and honestly, all the people that we have interacted with in China have been really fine people, and hopefully we never go to war with that country or any country. But thank you, Charlene.
Welcome,
for keeping it
Jennifer.
together.
Well, this jacket is a copy of Johnny's flight jacket.
Come
It's made from a
Come on.
picture that was taken at Chongming, and then the film was sent back to Rangoon to be developed and printed. And then he sent the prints back to America. And this is exactly as in the pictures taken on the flight line with Johnny. The bear is, okay, wait, got it. The camera is backwards.
It's okay. We can see it. It's perfect,
Yeah.
Paul. It's the
And that's
panda.
exactly what was painted on his plane. But this was the second squadron
Yes.
when the squadron adopted the panda bear. The first squadron was Hell's Angels. The third squadron was Adam and Eve. However, the very original paintings on his plane show a mouse riding a bicycle instead of a panda bear riding a bicycle. And that was his individual identity on the plane. Then when the squadron got together and they all decided to adopt the panda bear, the mouse was overpainted with the panda bear.
Yeah, I don't know why, but China is in the process of calling all the panda bears out of our zoos returned home. I don't know whether
Yes.
some agreement that was established many years ago, but I was surprised. We're coming home. The pandas are going home.
Well, the original panda exchange was a permanent thing. And then when that agreement ran out, the new agreement had been changed. And I'm not sure whether the people that translated from the Chinese to the American really understood the Chinese, but it turned out that in the Chinese, it says that on this agreement, it's not a gift, it's a loan. And that's why they're going back. And the reason they're going back is the politicians are all pissed off at each other.
Yeah.
So as usual, Washington has got its head up his butt just as bad as Beijing. I spent a lot of time over there, and politicians are politicians the world around.
Precisely. Well spoken. Thank you. I think we're all shaking our heads and smiling yes. So hey. Paul,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you could join us today. It's been a bit. I know we've tried to get together on other occasions, so I'm glad you were able to join us today. We still haven't started our service, but I want to introduce Dr. Helen Wang. Hi, Helen. Welcome. Good to see you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you in this way to celebrate the victories between the two countries. I just come to the Zoom a little bit late. I think last week I watched some video telling about Flying Tiger team flew to Beijing. The people climb up to Great Wall. Mori, is that Mr. Mori? Yes, he is now 103 years old.
Yeah.
Very great longevity with him. So people celebrate the lovely collaboration between America and China, and especially they appreciate the American support at the critical time. Chinese faced the tough time with Japanese. But oh, sorry. Oh, Terry, do you think I should introduce myself a little bit?
Yes, a little bit, please.
A little bit. I'm Helen Wang. Chinese name is Xiaohui. Xiaohui is not easy to say, but in Chinese it means the little orchid, the flower, because my father loves that flowers. In China, 4 kinds of plants are favored plants: orchids, bamboo, pine tree, and what is another one? Suddenly, I cannot remember. So my father gave me my given name. Later on, I had a short story about my father with the flying tiger. My father was studying in Central University in China at that time. His major was English and European and American literature. Later on, he joined the Chiang Kai-shek's administration in Department of Foreign Mission. So when the war become worse and worse, he worked for the for the air department of the country at that time. he told me he joined the to receive America Flying Tiger team, the flight, sometimes too busy. On the flight, he was only one on the there except the pilot. They transfer the flight to the Kunming. So it was touching. My father was very young that time, but he joined the fighting against the Japan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But very the shame, very pity. My father didn't leave any items about that. Probably you know, during the revolution culture, our family, like most of other Chinese family, we destroy many historic things. If you keep that, that's dangerous for the family. So many things just dammed up. I'm so sorry for that history.
You're so sorry for what, Helen?
So I say many items about Chinese history in many families could not be kept during revolution culture. So just a moment ago, I heard about what you talk about. You have some precious items from Flying Tiger teams. This let me remind of that time we throw away many things, probably some related to the Flying Tiger. I don't know exactly.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Have I introduced everybody, I think? Okay, except me. Most of you know me. I'm Charlene Fontaine. I'm the daughter of Stuart Fontaine, who was in the 69th. He drove his workshop, which was a, what is that called? A Mack truck filled with his tool and die tools across the Burma Road. And they had very interesting stories to tell. One of the ones I will never forget he shared, which he didn't share a lot until I joined the organization, and then I got a little more out of him. But he shared, he said on the flat back of the trucks, they had sheet metal, forms of sheet metal that were bigger than the flat back of the truck of the semis. And I said, well, he said, and when we would go to make the turns, there wasn't enough room. I said, well, how did you get the sheet metal around the bends on the road? Because of the mountains that they had to blow the sides off to get under the trucks under. He said, we used oil and we gussied it, and we had somebody sit on it, and we swung it all the way out over the valley. We drove around the bend, we gussied it back and swung it back so the men would hang on. I went, okay, I don't want to know who did that, Dad. But that, I mean, Yankee ingenuity was absolutely at its best from our veterans, our dads, our granddads, our uncles, our cousins, whomever, that in China. I mean, what they had to do to survive and thrive and win the war to help the Chinese people was absolutely mind-boggling to me. I read the stories, I interview them, I hear it, and I'm like blown away. So anyway, okay, now that we've all introduced ourselves and we know whose was who in the zoo, so to speak, and as Lieutenant Vo used to say, bless his heart, I loved him to bits, I miss him dearly. I'd call him and say, hey, LT, how's it going? And he would just sparkle. So anyway, through the phone. Let's start our service. And Dave, I'd like you please to open it with our prayer, please.
Thanks, Carly. Source of all life, we call for this time of honoring to be filled with compassion, understanding, kindness, and healing. Protection for those in harm's way and gratitude for those who have served. Remove from everyone's heart anger, pain, closed-mindedness, and hate. In their place, caring, comfort, peace, new perspectives, and joy. Grant grace to all. Amen and shalom.
Thank you, Dave. Nell, can you please honor us with the Pledge of Allegiance? And that's why we have a flag in the background, so everybody has a flag to look at. So Nell, take it away, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nell. Sue, can you honor us with our honoring of our veterans?
Yes, absolutely. So on this one day of each year, we come together to honor, show our respect and appreciation for the men and women who stepped forward, raised their hand to take the oath to serve our country. They are brave, filled with courage, and blessed with an inner compass that brought them safely home. Some gave the supreme sacredness of their life. Their valor helped forge nations, so all have the freedom that we hold dear. We thank, show gratitude, and salute the veterans for their sacrifices, which are many, varied, and deep. The scars of battle live in their hearts. To veterans' families, we give them our gratitude. They stayed behind, wrote letters, sent packages and more to show they cared and supported their loved ones' mission. Most veterans have never spoken of the horrors they experienced. Others have written books, so the home front might gain insights into their experiences. Some choose only to gain support from being with their comrades, to share the pains they carry in their bodies, minds, and souls. November 11th is a day that has been set aside by the governments of the United States, Canada, and Allied Forces Commonwealth countries. This date is known by several designations: Armistice for the Europeans and Remembrance for Canadians. This is a time to honor, remember, cherish, and celebrate all veterans, those who come home, and those who are laid to rest in a foreign land. These countries observe 2 minutes of silence at 11 a.m. In Canada, the poppy is a symbol for Remembrance Day. In the USA, we wear the poppy for Memorial Day, the last Monday in May. This resilient flower was seen rising out of a bloody battle in France during World War I. Lieutenant Colonel John McRae, a Canadian surgeon, saw through the carnage that spring to view an amazing cluster of red poppies. The poppy is a symbol of hope, that even when nature and bodies are badly mangled, they can survive and thrive. He also wrote the poem In Flanders Field. His poem has been used since World War I at memorial services around the world. After World War I, women's organizations, the American Legion and YWCA and more on both continents created the red silk poppies to sell to raise money for the returning veterans. And there are millions sold each year to help veterans in need.
Thank you, Sue. So today we take a few moments to remember, to honor, to cherish, and to celebrate all military personnel who have served and are serving with tremendous commitment and pride in our United States Air Force, our United States Army, our United States Coast Guard, our United States Marine Corps, the United States Navy, and our newest military branch, Space Force. Yay, keep flying Tigers, yay. So may we all hold in our hearts those who gave their best and those who gave their all. We now promise to keep their sacred sacrifices alive for future generations. Be blessed, all our veterans. Thank you. So now, let's hear some wonderful stories about our relationship with China and the experiences that Mel and Jennifer and Nell experienced. And I think Nell may have a few extra things to share with us today. So take it away.
Thank you, Carly, and thank y'all all for being a part of this, especially Carly for organizing it and letting us touch base. And it was so rewarding to me to hear the grandchildren on there because I'm a grandchild. You know, one of the things I kept saying is, of course, I was very blessed on this last trip to China to have Mel and Jennifer and Harry Moyer, who still have a voice and still have a very big voice in what they say. And people heard that voice. But for most of us, we have to be the voice of those who are no longer here. I wish so much as I was visiting China with Harry and Mel and thinking about how they must feel to be there and to see what their sacrifice and service has done for a people in a country. You know, China is a thriving country today. Without what, you know, the ABGs and the 14th Air Force, the China Air Task Force, 14th Air Force, what they were able to accomplish, China would be very different today. And our governments obviously are very polarized. I heard many times while I was in China that this APEC meeting next week is of vital importance and will determine which direction China and the United States go. So I think that we all should be in prayer and ask God to have a hand in it so that it will go in the right direction, because if China and the United States don't go in the right direction, the whole world loses. I mean, there's no win game for anybody in the world if China and the United States are not headed, at least some kind of truce. We were very encouraged by the fact that Xi Jinping had written a letter to the Sino-American Heritage Foundation, to Mel and to Harry and to Jeff Green in response to a letter that they had sent to him. I did have to say that I think he copied General Chenault a little bit. I don't know if he intentionally did it, but my grandfather wrote a book in 1949. The last sentence of that book says, "It is my fondest hope that the sign of the flying tiger will remain aloft just as long as it is needed on both shores of the Pacific to show two great peoples working toward a common goal in war and peace." You know, Harry, Mel, your fathers, your grandfathers, they all fought a war to give us all a better life. And I have to say, if I died tomorrow, I can honestly say I've had the best life. I've been very blessed. It's been a great life, and you know, I would go in peace about the life that I've been fortunate enough to be able to live. But what can we do now for our future generations? It's up to us. They fought the war. They gave us the peace. It's what we do with the peace that counts now. It's what we do with the peace that gives us the direction for how our children, our grandchildren, and I'm very happy to tell y'all right now, it's kind of hard being here because I have a 14-month great-grandchild at my house as we speak. So, but I'm here at work, and but I look at her, and I think I owe it to her to do all I can do to extend that hand of friendship. And I think Mel and Jennifer will totally agree. We were not sure. I wasn't. I really didn't have the opportunity to talk to them about it. I was not sure of the reception that we would receive in China. This was my 14th trip to China. I've always been the guest of theirs, but and been very honored. But with the relationship since COVID, it's been very difficult. And the news media has, let's say, they made hay while the sun was shining and made the most of all the problems that we have that exist between China and the United States, unfortunately. I feel like the news media, and some of you may be associated with the news media. I think the news media is probably 80% of the problem because they represent both countries. They misrepresent, I should say, both countries. I had several Chinese tell me that they were afraid to come to the United States because of the China bashing that we have. Two of them said they had just been to the United States and had a very warm reception. I had to remind them that the news media seeks out stories of China bashing. They look for them and they report them. They don't report on all the good, wonderful relationships that we have with Chinese people over here. The news media over there does the same thing. You know, I've noticed one thing about the news media, and Carly, cut me short if I go too long with this, but
Okay.
I noticed the news media over there, you know, their news media mostly reports the good that's happening within their country because the government takes control of everything else, which isn't necessarily obviously a good thing in my opinion. But our news media only, if it bleeds, it leads. So our news media is only looking mainly for the bad stories. Now we had a publicity man with us, Hans Krummer, who his job was to do the PR for our trip. And if you go to Flying Tigers on Google Flying Tigers, and you go up to the top and you look at news, you will see how much we did get covered. And believe it or not, NBC, and somebody told me CBS, I have not seen that. but
Yes.
NBC covered it. And I was extremely pleased, although I think it was a 2-second clip on the news one night. If you go to that feed, you'll get a lot more, but not everybody knows to go to that. So unfortunately, a lot of people may not see it. I don't know. But I have to tell you, Flying Tigers, your fathers, your grandfathers, they are very well remembered and revered in China and with the Chinese public. I think Mel and Jennifer would agree they could not do enough for us. I laugh because, you know, Americans, you can't hardly get them to open a door for you sometimes, even though some of us are older. The Chinese will run to make sure they open that door for you. And it's very heartwarming and gratifying. And I know it doesn't have anything to do with anything I've ever done. I've never done anything to deserve that. It's because of people like Mel and Harry and our fathers and grandfathers. I have a story I've never really shared with any of y'all, but my father served in China as well. My grandfather kind of takes the headlines there, but he was a veteran of the China theater, and we have I'm not going to go into his story. We have an incredible story on him, and we just finished an exhibit on him. So you know, a lot of me was very gratified to see the response that we received in China, and I think all of y'all would have your hearts warmed by that. And I cannot tell you how many museums are going up today still in China about the Flying Tigers and their contribution to helping China to stay China, because it did. Without the Flying Tigers and without the efforts that were done there, China would be very different today, possibly Japanese. So I'm not going to go on anymore. Thank you for giving me this time to share, but my heart is full. I think because of this trip that I've had, that I actually got another invitation that could be very important. So hopefully I will take this trip and the things that I learned on this trip and to continue to pass the message of the fact that we have got to work out a relationship between China and the United States, a peaceful relationship. And Mel and Jennifer, I would say to you that letter from Xi Jinping that he wrote to y'all in September in response to your letter, I feel personally his message was that of friendship. I can send you the letter, Carly, and
Please.
but he talked about the fact that, you know, the future was within our youth. The future was people to people. And he admitted in that letter that it was not necessarily politics. And
Yay.
I
I
agree,
thought
and
that was,
keep that letter as a family memento.
but don't you agree, Mel, that it seemed like it was a hand of friendship writing that letter?
Absolutely, and that's the feeling I got, and I'm going to, as I said, we're going to keep that letter and for our grandchildren to see, to get an idea of how things could be.
Yeah. And that's vitally important. So I think for all of us, tiger cubs, tiger great cubs, whatever we are, whatever capacity that we're in, we need to keep spreading the word that the Chinese people revere and appreciate their history and their heroes. And that's something that Americans could learn from them. So
Absolutely.
thank you again for giving me that chance.
You're welcome. Now, thanks for being with us and telling us the story, because sharing the information with us, because we need to know, because you're right, the media just, they're unkind. I'll put it that way and be kind in my comments.
Yeah.
Since this is a day of honoring and celebration, these men and the women who served in CBI that we hear very little about, we're honoring them and celebrating their contributions to our freedoms, because without Wing and Mel and Harry and all of our dads and granddads, China wouldn't be what it is today. And without the Chinese, of their cooperation with us, with them being there, our world would be a very different place. And I'm very grateful to all of our veterans for what they've done and the blessing of it all. So,
But
I'm
it comes
sorry.
Yeah, it comes with great responsibility too, Carly, that we can't forget about that.
No, we have a tremendous responsibility. And like I said earlier today, I don't know if all of you were on or not, but I was saying to Wing, I think it was, that when I have a bad moment, I thought of Harry Moyer and Mel in China. And I was like, okay, they did it. Buck up, girl. Grow a set. Get moving forward, That's what we have to do, because that's what you all taught us. I had to say that to my speech coach this week, for my speech and memory challenge. And I told her, I said, look, you need to get something through your little head. I said, I was raised by men and women who do, especially our tiger dads, who do not know the meaning of quit, stop, or cannot do. And if that's foreign to your concept of life, then I'm with the wrong person, because you are not going to have me stop doing what I'm doing.
Well,
Period.
thank you for what you do. Thank you.
You're welcome, y'all. So I hate to cut this short, but we need to close with our closing prayer. And I promise you that, yes, Paul, starting next year, we will get together at least once a quarter and have Zoom meetings, and not celebrations, not ceremonies, just connecting. Okay? Because I miss this. I miss you all terribly.
Okay, I would just like to ask, the last couple of years, I've stayed around in the States because my wife's cancer treatments, but it's done. She's healed. I would like to get notified of these trips to China. I'm retired now. I worked over there for 15, 20 years. Had a good time every time I was there. I would love to go on these tours, or whatever comes up that we can also bring the AVG into it. So I'd like to be notified when these come up and get into it.
Yeah, John, I think, Paul, it's important, because one of the missions that we had while we were there is to open and to visit. Jeff has worked very hard in the Sino-American Heritage Foundation to establish some Flying Tiger schools in China. And they are partnered with the schools in the United States. There's more in China, of course, than the United States, because it's a little bit more difficult to find partners in the United States. But that is something we all can work towards. I came home with my mind of what school can I find that would do that? Because if we start teaching this bond of history and the importance of the history and how it carries us into the future, with these young children, middle school age and above, then that is going to be, I think that'll make a huge difference. So the trip was specifically for that. You would have fit in as a relative, of course, of ABG Blind Tigers. But yeah, I think that's something we can do. And the school part is through the Sino-American Heritage Foundation.
Now, can you send
Thank
me
you.
the part of that? And then we can put it up on our website too, so people are familiar with it. And also possibly the National History Day folks to see if they could get some schools that are interested in it as well.
Okay.
Okay. Because I think all these things are so much more important than what we just think it is. We have beautiful, broad, loving, compassionate, fighter mode, can-do shoulders that we stand on. And it is our obligation for the future to make sure that those shoulders get broader and more children get involved to understand that beautiful relationship.
Will y'all bear with me for about 5 minutes to share something? Is that
Yes,
okay?
go for it.
Okay.
We've got about 5 minutes left because Jim has to have to close down our Zoom meeting and get on
Okay.
his.
All right, 5 minutes. Several years ago, I found out China had opened its skies to private aviation. And I was able to find a Chinese American that was willing I tell people drink the Kool-Aid. We started the Chenault Aviation Academy in Conroe, Texas in 2017. And we have been working since then to try to be able to get Chinese pilots. We're graduating over 90 pilots a year now from our school. And we've already fed some into the commercial airlines where they're desperate. But I had a meeting with the head of the CAAC while I was in Beijing, and he's given us permission now to have the Chinese students to come to our school. So that is another way that I'm reaching out. If anybody wants to find out more information about that, ChenaultAviationAcademy.com is on to look at the website. Contact me, I'll lead it to you. We actually, on Thursday, we're going to be opening our own airport. Aaron has built an airport. So we now have the Chenault Airfield that our school is located on. So it's very exciting, but it's continuing what we were talking about, getting the Chinese and American students together in our shared history. So I just had to share that bit of good news because it was wonderful news for me. It was a fulfillment of a dream. Once the students start coming, there are a few details to iron out, but anyway.
Now, congratulations. You are doing fabulous work. The general is smiling down from ear to ear and so proud. It's just amazing. So thank you all for joining us. Ron, are you with us? Could you please lead us in the closing prayer of the Lord's Prayer? And we will be on our way. Have a blessed Thanksgiving. Thank you all again for joining. And that's it. We appreciate the service of our amazing veterans and the sharing of your time for others. Thank you all very, very much. Ron, take it away.
Yes. Again, thank you, vets, and your wives, grandfathers, and grandmothers. We thank you for all that you do, country. Prayer. Ready, begin. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom
come, thy will be done
thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day
our daily bread,
and lead us not into temptation.
Sins, as we
Forgive of our trespasses and those who trespass against us.
For thine is that.
Are you? Deliver us not into evil, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Shalom. Thank you all again so much. Happy Veterans Day. Enjoy the weekend. Celebrate who you are. And we
Okay.
extend our love, our hearts filled with love out to all our veterans. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you maybe before Christmas.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thank
Bye-bye.
y'all. Have a blessed
Thanks,
day.
Charlie.
Bye-bye, Shelley.
Everyone.
Bye.
Rest of the
Bye-bye,
week.
Mel.
Happy Veterans
Bye.
Day.
Jennifer.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Okay.